I'm a little different. I am not a light professor or researcher in any way, but I did invent satellite AIS, and a couple of people have mentioned how they're using it, and that's why I'm here today, to talk about where we're going in the extension. Once I invented satellite AIS, almost immediately 10 different organizations from 6 different countries, Canada, Norway, Germany, France, Italy, and Japan, all came to see me and said, we're building imaging systems. Most of them were SARS, but some of them were optical as well. And we'd like to partner with you, collaborate with you. So I said, yay, verily, let's do it. And sometime in late 2005, we had our first meeting on the 22nd of April of 2005. And by the end of 2005, I was very aware that a lot more was going on in space than I had any idea about it. We came up with the idea of this: collaboration in space, international global maritime awareness. How long do I have? I have about 20 minutes, correct?
Yes, maybe a little bit shorter to allow time for questions.
Yep, okay, I'll be quick. This is about a 50-slide presentation, but no, it's a 70-slide presentation, but I plan to stop it at about 25. But if anybody wants the rest of it, which goes into all these different sensors in some detail, you're welcome to it. Anyway, we originally looked at this as a security problem, but then the more I found out about it, I'm an ex-Navy security person, and I flew with the Air Force too. I realized how very important the maritime environment is and its resources, maritime safety as well. And so I actually reversed it. But it was obvious to me that we needed to form a global space partnership.
We're also going to be talking about.
And basically how I got involved in this is on the day of 9/11, the president tasked, I was a research professor at Johns Hopkins on loan to the Naval War College. And on the day of 9/11, the president tasked the head of the Navy to look at what our vulnerabilities were to maritime terrorism, what we could do about it. It came down the chain of command and landed on my office mate's desk very early the next morning. And he tasked me at about 8 o'clock in the morning of 9/12, the day after 9/11, to be his technical advisor, because I had significant experience both in wargaming, and we held a series of war games, and in maritime sensors. This is what we came up with. This is what we look like, and this is what we came up with. We could define every bullet here. This is not just a pretty picture. We actually ended up writing a several 100-page secret document that we couldn't get anybody to read until we put this together. And you'll notice up here we have commercial satellites, and I will go into that. Also, in that time, I became aware that the Coast Guard had the AIS system that they were going to put that would go out about 25 miles. But the last several years, my time in the Navy, I was a space operations person, and I'd also worked on our president's airplane. And I was pretty sure that I knew how to put a receiver in space. So I spent 3 years begging people for money before I finally found somebody. I found people that liked my idea, and I found people that had money, but neither one liked my idea and had money until 2004. Anyway, that led directly to my writing this task in our national space policy. It says that we will basically build, using international collaboration, we will build an international system to enhance safety at sea, mutual security, protect the environment, the resources of the sea, the flow of commerce, blah, 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 blah. It's never been implemented. I spent 9 months working on that, and I literally had the attention of Chief Staff of the President of the United States, Barack Obama, and then Chief Staff went off to be the mayor of Chicago, and I lost my friend in court, and it's never been done. It still needs to be done. Background: I became the Science and Technology Advisor for Maritime Domain Awareness, basically in October of 2001, but before it was even created. But they created the post in 2003 and gave it to me, and I became. But we looked at the official person. We looked at every platform, every sensor, processing system, fusion system, analysis system, display and decision system, and dissemination system, also known as comm system, we could find. But as I said, by late 2005, it was obvious to me, even before that, that commercial space was going to be a big core of this. I'm still doing that research. Basically, I've had to explain a lot of people that they mix up these terms, but this is the way I define it. You have data, you collect it. You have phenomenology, you collect it. You process and fuse it to make information. You analyze it to become knowledge. You use display and decision aids to give you a decision, an understanding of it. And hopefully your leader gives you wisdom to do that. The desired end result of all these, in my case, is what I call global maritime awareness. Why global maritime awareness? Fair question. Why is it important? Even more important question. Maritime security is essential to every nation's well-being. Even though you may not have a coast, it is very important globally. Maritime security is directly proportional to what your maritime situation awareness is. I don't just say that. I've studied it now for over 20 years. Thus, MSA equals MS. And this is true globally. It is not just true for those of us that have seashores. Ergo, global maritime awareness means a more secure world. That's why it's important. And that's why I'm talking to you guys. I want you to know this. I need your help. Help. Advanced numbers of capabilities of the unclassed systems. You guys are talking about some of them. You all know that. The new radar satellites that are coming on board, the RF geolocation satellites, the imaging systems that have now been up there for 30 years. They're all very important, every one of them. We also, you probably know, and I'm sure this audience does, some don't, that there's been an explosion, a major avalanche of what's happening in data processing. It does offer the world an opportunity to build an excellent global maritime awareness system, thereby significantly improving life on Earth. Now, any of you guys that know anything about the United States know that what happens in Las Vegas stays in Las Vegas. It's the fun city. But what happens in the world's seas has an impact all over the world. It impacts our safety, our security, our environment, economic, and resources. Global collaboration is based on trust. It is required for global maritime awareness. You can't serve trust. It needs to be earned. Mike Mullen said that when he was the chief. He and I were friends when he was a captain and I was a commander. But he basically has said this at when he was our head of our military. And it's very true. Unclassified space is what I'm going to talk about. Marine term is bluff. Not I'm going to fake you out, but rather bottom line up front. Let me give you the numbers and then what they mean. Currently, right now, there are Earth observation in space that assist with this situation. I added NightLights for you guys just for this brief, by the way. I did have 6. I did have 5, now I've got 6. Satellite AIS. And we have comment system arriving soon as well. There's the first truly comment, both electronic intelligence and communication intelligence satellite is literally being prepped for launch right now. It's called Amber. It's built by Horizon Technologies. Satellite AIS. There's about 12,000 satellites going to be built. Something like 1,000 of those are going to be focused on Earth observation. There's about 175 up today. I think it's going to top out in AIS for around 250. I sent you guys a question, but you didn't read it. Is there any way we could put an AIS receiver on your unicorns? That seems like a good idea to me. And there's a market out there. I can talk to you about it. Synthetic aperture radars. There's about 20 up there today. It looks like it's going to be 150 in the next couple of years even. Optical, right now there's about 80 in the low 80s. I'm including the VIIRS in that system. Video, there's 4 up there today. SIGINT, as I say, there's ELINT. There's about 6 ELINT satellites up there today, and there's going to be there's 8 up there today. I'm sorry. It looks like to me that we're going to have about 50 SIGINT satellites that I know about. Also, I included the machine-to-machine and the Internet of Things satellites because they're going to be fully exploitable. They're already semi-exploitable today, but they're going to be fully exploitable very quickly. And there's a lot of information that goes back and forth from sea on the M-to-M systems, machine-to-machine communication systems. Wrote a paper several years ago now that I call Space-Based Maritime Situation Awareness, where 3 global comets converge. It's another way to look at it. I think we all know that there are 4 global comets. The Maritime comets, which is in fact about 2,000 years old. Air, it's about 120 years old. Space, which is something like 60 years old, if you count the start of the launch of Sputnik 1. And cyber, 10, 20 years, something like that. Pick a number. It's grown to, it's dramatically expanding even today. Major advances in the last 2 have had huge effects on the MSA. By the end of the 21st century, 20th century, we all know it's an interconnected world. Most people do not realize that it was not connected in the maritime domain at all, not very much anyway, until 2008. Satellite AIS has changed all that. Provides the needed location identification missing in the maritime domain. Maritime situation awareness is needed for counter smuggling, drugs, people, arms, goods, counterbat, and to counter piracy. It's a big problem. Didn't used to be, but in the last 20 years, it's dramatically increased. Maritime safety would be assisted dramatically by situation awareness. Environmental protection, I've said all this. The other 2 that I haven't added before that is disaster mitigation and disaster recovery. One of the very first uses of satellite AIS after we got it up in 2008, the Haiti earthquake, and they used satellite AIS to know what disaster relief was going to arrive when. They only had one berthing space, one place where you could pull across up to a pier in Haiti at that time. So it was very important that they prioritized what was landing first. I think water landed first because their water supply was compromised. But that became a major thing. That's a major thing they do today right now. They've figured out ways to use satellite AIS to dramatically assist. Basically, it's feasible to use one center for the global coordination of all space centers. The Irish National Space Center was going to do that until they lost their funding for it. But we're still looking for someone to do that. In a meeting, I've been to many NATO maritime security meetings in the last 15 years. One in April 2016 was on how do we establish global maritime awareness. So basically, it was on maritime domain awareness, and they said it needs to be done globally. We need to coordinate and synchronize. We need to develop command and control procedures to coordinate. We need to develop linkages between all the different maritime domain awareness, maritime situation awareness organizations in the world. We need to get leadership and vision, and I think they've got that in a Commodore in the British Navy called, interestingly enough, no relation to me. His name is Thomas Guy. I go by Guy Thomas. It's kind of funny. Some people originally got the 2 of us confused, but he's a rear admiral in the British Navy now, working for NATO. He has the leadership and the vision, no doubt about it. We need to provide a focus. We need to collaborate both regionally and globally. There's already some regional organizations out there. We need to link them up today. Goes way ahead, use the development of space-based MSA to develop what I call worldwide global maritime awareness. This is something I came up when I was first working on this. It was obvious to me that Karl Marx had the right idea, just the wrong execution. In the maritime world, each according to its ability, to each according to its needs. There's a lot of countries out there that really have huge needs. Africa, South America, Micronesia, South China Sea, Indian Ocean, places out there where the people are dirt poor, but they really need to have better MSA, and space will give that to us. Basic four types of satellites. I've already talked about these already. Each makes a unique contribution. You have to have all of them, especially the first 2, satellite AIS and synthetic aperture radar. Now the SIGINT systems are coming online too. They're going to be very important. And I'd be happy to give you a brief on why that's important, but trust me, they're going to be very important. But People say, well, it costs too much. Actually, if you look at controlling the oceans of the world, space systems are very cost effective. They make the terrestrial systems, the ships and planes, many times more effective by allowing them to do a much better job of pinpointing their search. It's a huge saving in fuel wear and tear. The game changer is satellite AIS. It makes it both viable and feasible. It's the most significant change, people tell me, in maritime operations since the screw propeller, maybe the radar. Significantly more effective than GPS. GPS has had a huge effect all over the world in many different ways, and it's certainly had an effect in the maritime world. But satellite AIS is changing the maritime world at its core. One of the other things that I let people know is you really did need to develop, and this was back from 2002, you need to develop a common distributed virtual database, information extraction and exchange system. You need to take it across the whole link that I put out at the very first of this brief. This was how we planned to defeat the Soviet air defense systems. Each of these was developed. That was this one by the Navy, this one by the Navy, this one by the Air Force, this by the Army, and this by the Army air defense people. We spent $105,000, $105 million figuring out how to come down this in lightning speed. We need to do the same thing in the maritime domain. And yes, I need to color one of these blocks black because, yeah, there is some black information out there, classified information. The vast majority of this is unclassified. This is the name of some of the US databases, but in fact, there's a cloud out there in the maritime world that is full of databases and information exchange capabilities we need to harness. In fact, I wrote this, as I say, in 2002. And I also said that we needed smart agents, artificial intelligence, machine learning to do this in 2002. And this is what they needed to focus on. There was two different companies that rose to that pitch, one of them headed by Jayton Baines and the other Paul Krastansky. And they have solved that problem, but that was in 2004, 2005. They're still working on it, and other people are too now. I call that dynamic data analysis now. Basically, you sense it, you process it, you fuse it, analyze it, goes back up, you decide, and you act. And that's my brief, my friends. As I say, I have literally another 40 some odd, 47, I think it is, slides I'd be happy to go with, but we don't have time today. Be happy to talk to anybody about this.